20 years ago, a bar was born in New York City that changed the way we drink today. 2 years after that, it arrived in London. Fast forward those 20 years and Milk and Honey in London is still open and just as cutting edge as it was all those moons ago. Our guest today not only manages that legacy, but is creating his own. I'm Susan Schwartz, your drinking companion, and this is Lush Life Podcast. Every week, we are inspired to live life one cocktail at a time by the best in the industry. Pierre-Marie Bisson holds a special place in my heart. Not only is he the general manager of Milk and Honey, but also a great supporter of Lush Life Cocktail Tours. There is no way I could do the tour without stopping in for a London calling made by him or his team. Pick up A Proper Drink by Robert Simonson if you want to read all about Milk and Honey and its influence. We're here today to find out everything we can about Pierre and how he made his way to this iconic bar. Then he reveals a few of his favorite spots in London and Paris to drink and gives us some top tips for the home bartender. We started this interview with a London calling in hand. You know, it's really exciting for me to be drinking a London calling in the place where it was born, at Milk and Honey, with you, who made it. So
I made that drink, but Chris Jepson created that drink in 2002, and it just shows how drinks should be about just balance and taste. And that drink is basically just a gin sour with a tiny bit of sherry, which will just give this kind of nice slight nuttiness, slight saltiness to it, and that's probably the reason why 18 years later it's one of the only drinks, probably the only drink that's never left the menu, and that you can probably find in any cocktail bar around the world. You can probably ask for a London calling and people would know what it is.
I think, any cocktail bar in the world. But I'm interested in the ingredients that made you. So, we know where the London calling cocktail was born. Now, how about you? Where were you born?
I was born in Caen, in Normandy.
Ah, with the apples.
Exactly, in the Calvados region.
Yes.
Just a little harbour town, family of sailors, really. The first thing in the photo album, the family photo album, is literally the telegraph that my dad was sent when I was born, because he was obviously at sea, just to say that the son and the mum were doing okay.
And how often did he come back?
When I was a kid, not that much. He was away quite often, but we're a family of 5 now, and basically after the third child, we moved to Brittany, and both of my parents were still in the Navy, but that's when my second brother was born, he decided that he should try and find more of a desk job, so we moved to the Persian suburbs then. So we'd actually be a family, and then 2 more joined the family, a third brother and a little sister. And that's when he realized that he needed to do something else, and he became a naval attaché in Beijing for the French embassy, so we all moved to China for a couple of years.
Do you remember your time in France? Or how old were you when you went to China?
Something like 9 or 10. Mm-hmm. So I did my all my primary school in the Parisian suburbs, and then I did the first years of high school in China.
And where in China?
Beijing.
Beijing, you said that. Yeah. Sorry. Where would you remember? And how long
Absolutely.
Were you there?
I was there for 3 years. I went back a couple of years ago to see how it had changed, because I left in 2002 actually. So I went back, as my little sister actually lives there now. So we kind of went down memory lane, because she was 3 when we went there and 6 when we left. So she didn't really remember anything, but I took her to the same restaurant we used to go on Sundays that was near a park near where we lived. The place where we lived, which was basically a 4-year compound, is heavily protected by guards and everything, but I just went and waved and basically just said hi, and if you look confident enough, anywhere is free of access. And we just went there, and although a few things have changed, there's basically just a big statue of a lion that's still there, so we just took a picture, sent it to the rest of the family, and it's really nice. Beijing has changed entirely over the last 18 years really. But
Well, I was there when I was 16, and I am much older than you, and that is for a different podcast. But yeah, it's when I was there, it was all bikes, and now, of course, it's not so many bikes, but a lot of cars.
the city center has changed a lot now. It's like it used to be just school and embassies, and they've all moved closer to the airport and outside the city, and it's just now hotels and bars everywhere, and it's actually quite lovely, to be honest. It's got a massive nightlife as well.
Did you learn how to speak any Chinese while you were there?
Yeah.
Do you still remember it?
I still speak
Mandarin,
speak? Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Now, did you go to a French school?
Yeah.
You had to, I guess,
well,
right?
Yeah, at the time,
or an
obviously.
international.
I went to the Beijing French school, basically, and that's where I got to learn quite heavily and quite fast English and Chinese.
And where did you move when you came back? Did you move to France?
Yeah, I moved back to France. So my dad basically got another job in Paris. So because we were such a big family, decided to move a bit further down in the suburbs near Versailles, actually in the town that he used to live as a child, and where my grandparents have been living for probably 40 years now. And let's say I was a bit of a difficult teenager, so I was sent to a military high school. Basically,
was that really tough?
It was, but all things considered, like, I'm very happy I went there. It just there was nothing, like when I say that to people, they imagine like shooting ranges, and not at all. It was just we had uniforms. Yeah, we had to sing the national anthem once in a while. We had to dress up nicely. We had to do, but most importantly, we just had to do chores. Like, I mean, we had to take our own rooms, big deal. We had to sweep and mop. We had to tidy our beds. We had to bring the sheets to people to clean them and everything. And you just had to be organized and clean, and just respect one another, because there was quite a lot of us, and that's literally it. And I was very happy about this. It just helps you keep your bed tidy, really. And that's all. There was nothing to. Obviously, there's people that really love these places, and you've got, like anywhere else, you've got little groups from the people that were sent there by their parents but still pretend they're punks, to the kids from very traditional Catholic families with names even longer than mine, and that will literally slap you in the face if you say "God damn it."
Oh boy!
Because you shouldn't use the Lord's name in vain, basically. So it was fun, but it's at the end of the day, it's like any other school. The main difference is, because we all wear the same clothes, well, you actually have to get to talk to people before knowing them. You don't assume anything from anyone, which actually is a lot better than regular school for me. I wouldn't mind anyone to be in a uniform in primary school and high school, because you kind of have to talk to other people to see if you're actually going to like them or not, rather than just assume from their clothes.
Did you change a lot, do you think, from that difficult teenager to, do you think it helped you?
Yeah, it probably did. I mean, I had a relapse around 20s, my early 20s, but yeah, it calmed me a bit, and it just helped me to be a bit more diplomatic, let's say, rather than just constantly say what I think, which sometimes gets you into trouble.
Yes, it can. Did you know what you wanted to, or have an idea what you wanted to do when you kind of grew up? I say in inverted commas.
Yeah, not really. I mean, I wanted to be a teacher or something like that. I just wanted to teach people. I wanted to share knowledge. I used to read a lot and watch a lot of movies, and I still do, probably a lot less because I don't have as much free time. But I wanted to share stuff with people, and it's difficult when you try to talk to people about a book that you read, for instance, and then all they want to talk about is the game they watched last night. So I wanted to find other people to try and share that, and then maybe just teach them, basically. And it was a very vague idea. History teacher, English teacher, something like that, maybe something that was kind of easy, because it would just have to be me doing what I was already doing, basically, but getting paid for it.
Mm-hmm. So did you went to university, though?
So basically, there was a little lapse. So after 3.5 years in that military school, because I dabbled my year 10, because I was not very studious. My dad got a new job at the French Embassy in Canberra, Australia. So I basically had to finish my year 12 in Australia. So I was specialized in languages. I was studying English, German, and Chinese, Latin and ancient Greek, and then literature, philosophy, history, basically. It's just kind of, if you'd say that to any French person, it's like kind of the lazy stuff, basically, because you don't study any economics, any math. You're just reading books and just chatting about them. So,
well, it doesn't sound lazy to me, I have to admit.
It was quite alright, but I was not very happy there because, well, my dad was very busy, and there was just 2 out of the 5 kids that went there because my mom had a different job that was quite important, so she needed to finish it before. So the family split a bit, just geographically, really, and it was for half a year go to the other side of the world, try to restart again something,
and you don't know anyone there.
So I just decided to do something else. And one of my friends from the military school told me that he was gonna do this BTS, which is basically a 2-year cursus it's a beautiful name. It's called International Trade, which means absolutely nothing really. So I was like, you know what? Let's go back. And basically on my 18th birthday, I told my dad that I would be leaving in a month back to France, and my parents arrived, like my mom and the rest of the family arrived, and the next day I was gone, basically back to France. So I did this thing for 2 years. So I was 18 and a week, and I had to find my own flat and started this study, which basically was one week in school, 1 week in a job, to try and start something and get obviously completely underpaid for everybody else's job, which is still something that happens everywhere. But I did that, studied, microeconomics, macroeconomics, law, continued to do German and English and Chinese, and realized that I never wanted to do that ever again. The 9 to 5 life was not really for me.
What kind of jobs were you working in?
Well, I was supposed to be helping in like marketing and trade and stuff, and I basically got, for 2 years, basically pushed back to help the accountant, which again, like in retrospective, I'm very happy about, because I'm one of these person that actually have no problem with accounting. I don't mind Excel files. They don't scare me, but I literally did that, and she was not very organized, so I had to help a lot. But yeah, it was not what I wanted to do, and like all the marketing stuff they would give me was just to put stamps on invitations for galas, and I was like, yeah, it's not really a marketing plan. I'm not really learning anything. So I stayed until the end to get the diploma, and then my parents were coming back to France, and since the job obviously finished with the diploma, because otherwise they would have to give me a real salary, so they shook my hand and say good luck for the future. So I just kind of went back to my parents at 20 years old, basically, and it's never good when you left once to come back, and they were not really expecting it either. They would have probably preferred to just pay for my studio and me stayed there, because they were counting on 4 kids and not 5, so suddenly, and a grown one at that. So I was there for a few months, and I realized I had to A, find a job, and B, find something else to do to show them that I was not just gonna stay on the couch all day and do nothing and just take their money. So I was wondering what to do, and I was looking at universities just to do something, like just another 3-year diploma or something to just get by. And the one that caught my eye was American and British literature and civilization, and I was like, I looked at the program. I had read half the books already. I spoke English fluently, so I was like, well, this is not going to be hard at all. It was. I didn't count for linguistics and stuff like that, which is really horrible. Write phonemes and stuff like that. But I went there, and I did that for a couple of years.
Did you have a goal at that point?
Not at all.
You were
just to show my parents I was not going to be the lazy 20-year-old just staying there. So it was just to get me out of bed, basically. And I went there, and I tried to find a few jobs on the side. Throughout the years, I was a teacher's assistant. I was a butcher at the time as well, which was horrible because it's a big family, and when you're not part of it, it's actually not easy to fit in. But I was doing like Saturdays and Sundays from like 5 a.m. to 3 p.m. Just come in, and when you're a teenager, it's also coming hungover at 5 a.m. to touch cold meat is not the best feeling in the world. But I did that, and then in France you've got this kind of every butcher shop would have the like this machine with roasting chicken just out on the street to make sure people would come and smell it, buy it. And I was just there doing that. So I still have like oil burns all over my forearms, and I was just doing that. And you come home and you smell like fry, and it's horrible. It was probably the healthier I was ever, because
you never ate a chicken, right?
You don't want to. You want steamed vegetables and fish. But yeah, they ended up firing me because the girlfriend's, one of the junior guy's girlfriend needed a job. So like, you're out, we'll take her instead because we know her. And so I was like, damn it, I need to find something. Because by then my parents were asking me to pay rent, which is unnatural, I think. So it just kind of came really, really weirdly. We had this pub near the university, which is called the Old Alliance. So really, really good for us. We can still talk about British civilization and the old friendship between Scots and French. So we just went there for happy hours because, you're cheap when you're a student. And one day was too packed and we had to just go further down the street, and I found this place called La Perla. It's a Mexican joint, really fun, really friendly and warm, and they had happy hours too, so that was great. And behind the bar was a guy I hadn't seen in years who was with me in mid-high school. So I went in, chatted him up a bit, called up a bit, and that was really fun. So we decided to start going there for drinks, obviously for the happy hour. And I befriended the manager, and that was right before I got fired from the butcher's job. So I got fired, so suddenly I didn't have any money to buy my drinks, which was a bit awkward, especially when you like having a drink. So I went there one day and I realized that they were looking for a waiter. And I was like, hey, I've been here on opening times, I've been here until close. I know exactly how to do all this because I see you do it. I've tried every single drink on the menu. Like I've got a good memory. I can just tell you right now everything that's on the menu. I can tell you exactly what's on every single dish. Can I have a job? And they were like, okay. And at that time, I just thought that, being a waiter was just basically being a glorified plate carrier, basically. I never thought too much of it. And I was just, I can carry a tray. I'm one of these guys that can carry 4 plates on one arm. It's logical to me. And I think I am a logical person. So logical and good memory, you should be able to do that. And it shouldn't take much more than that. How wrong I was. Because
I wasn't expecting you to say that.
No, sadly it is. Like the tray carrying part is easy, but it's about everything else. It's about, Sasha Petrasco, who opened Milk in New York, and I'll completely misquote him obviously, but said something along the lines of, "Give me someone for 15 minutes, and I'll show them how to make the perfect dry martini." But that's not what a bartender is about. It's about smiling after an 8-9 hour shift. It's about reaching out to the further in the freezer, even though you're back hurting, to get that colder glass. It's about these things. It's about managing your emotions and your guests' emotions.
It's the hospitality part.
Absolutely, and that's not something. I don't think that's something you can teach. You can teach someone to carry trays. You can train your memory. You cannot train someone to react, basically. And I think when we hear people here, I always say I want personalities, not egos, because the greatest sin of all in this job is pride, and you should never take anything personally. If a guest is mad at you, it's not about you. They had a bad day. Try to make it better for them, and if they don't want to interact with you, well, so be it. Be good for them by not being there. And you can't take anything personally. Even if they're rude, even if they insult you a bit, it's not really about you. They're just trying to assess their authority on you in some weird way, and it shouldn't bother you, because at the end of the day, you're here to make drinks, basically. You're not here to analyze them. You're not their teacher, you're not their psychiatrist, you're not their parents. We're not here to teach manners, sadly. There's obviously a difference between ill-mannered and insulting. If someone insults you, you can't take that. But if someone forgets to say thank you or please, or is a bit harsh when they ask something, or won't look at you when they order, well, we're all different. It shouldn't affect you that much. And I think that's what just slaps you in the face when you start working like full-time in this sort of places. And
when you were at La Perla,
yeah,
how long did it take you to start getting comfortable with that?
But the problem is I was, from day one, very comfortable.
So you just took to it immediately?
Not for the right reasons. No, because I talked back a lot.
Oh.
And in a laid-back, friendly, young environment with happy hours, some things can be said. But I wouldn't talk back to my customers today the way I did back then. I've hopefully grown a bit. And it still happens sometimes. Like even to this day, someone says something to you and you can't help yourself. And
were you told off for it?
Yeah. I almost got sacked because of the way I talked, not necessarily to customers, but with my staff. Because I just believed I was better than them, and I just basically told them what to do, although we were supposed to be on the same level, and they just complained because...
Was this right away when you got the job, or how long were you in?
A year in, maybe, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I realized that it was, again, not only about guests, but certainly also about your staff, and every single person you have to take care about. I think it's...
Why did you think you were better?
Because I was more organized, because I could take more orders at once. Like it was old-fashioned day. It was, you had basically nothing on you, and you'd come back to the bar, write everything on a piece of paper, stack one piece on the bar if they had ordered food, go all the way to the kitchen and stack the orders up, and I could take 3, 4, 5 tables without blinking, and I would remember everything, and I would come to the table, remember what every single person had. I wouldn't have to ask, and that sort of thing. So it made me faster and more efficient. And I just got frustrated to see people just coming back to look at a ticket they had written because they had forgotten what they had just ordered, or if it was the correct thing.
You're tough.
It's working. I think working in a bar is exactly like driving. There's one thing to do, which is in front of you, and you should be focused on that. But you also have to be aware of everything around you. Otherwise, you're driving into a wall, or someone's going to drive into you. It's all these small details, like if a bartender's focused and you're behind him, say backs, or touching him on the shoulder, or both, looking at everyone that's working around you. You're carrying a tray, but there's also 2 other people carrying trays, for instance. So make sure you're not gonna... I've seen that in places, just people, just running into one another because it's a bit busy and they're not looking. And it's about all this, and it's about being fast, but being very, very fluid. It's about being laid back. If you're too stressed, you're too tight in your own body, and you can't stop. You can't just give a little step on the side to. It's like dancing, really. Sometimes.
So was it a wake up call when you almost got fired? Was this something where you thought?
No, I didn't learn at the time.
No, I meant, did you feel like, I'm gonna miss this job if I'm not here? I'm starting to enjoy this.
It was still for the money. It was just. Okay. It was. Just like I thought I could be a teacher, just like I did this British and American literature exhibition, it just felt natural. It was something I could do, and I was immediately, I was good at it. And I'm not an overachiever. I'm not very ambitious. I don't think I am. I like when I'm already good without doing anything, which means that if I just put a tiny bit of effort, I can be very good. Mm-hmm. And I don't have to be excellent, because no one is. We all have flaws, we all make mistakes, and the sooner you understand that, and the sooner you understand that if you don't know how to do something, the best way to fix that problem is ask around.
Of course, you're sitting here saying that in one of the most famous bars in not only London but the world. So, I
would have said that anywhere. I think it's really important. Like I have people I still text on my phone if I'm not sure about a cocktail recipe, because I don't pretend to know them all. I know a few, and I'm happy with my knowledge, and I continue to learn. That's probably what got me so far. Is out of all the jobs I tried, it's the only one where I realized I could learn or teach something every day. You work in accounting, you work with accountants, you talk with accountants, you go out with accountants. God, they're dull. You're a teacher.
Not all are dull. Just the ones you've met. Maybe dull.
French accountants.
Okay, some accountants might be listening to this. They're not all dull. Some of them like to have cocktails. All right.
My personal history with accountants was not the funniest one, but at the end of the day, a bartender, like on my first year at ECC, for instance, I was.
Wait a sec. Okay, because not everyone's going to know what ECC is.
Experimental Cocktail Club.
All right, so When did you, while you were working at La Perla, did you think, or maybe you don't think this way, but this is, I could do this for a career, or?
So the day I realized that was, that's kind of the wake-up call. I was just slouching at the bar because in my little mind, I was happy and content with the situation in my room on the floor. And my manager, who's one of my dearest friends, just came to me and said, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh." And I answered the thing that I think all managers in the world, they would hate you, they would slap you, they would, when you say that, "I've done everything." And she was like, "Oh, what?" I was like, "Oh, everything's under control. I've done everything. I've got nothing to do right now." And she said, "Well, the menus on the bus could use a wipe. That table's nearly done, and you haven't put the ticket for the dessert right now. Because if they're really done and you don't have anything to, you can do that and save them a minute. This, that." And suddenly I realized that from my perspective, it was okay because no one was needing anything at the moment, but I was not trying to find what they were expecting. And I was not looking a couple of minutes forward in the future to make sure I could meet their expectations and I would be there. The minute their eyes would go up to find a waiter to call them for the menu, I'd be there with the menu. To be there with the water, to be there to take their plates. And I was like, "Yes, you're absolutely right." And then she added something and she was like, "You think you know it all?" And I was like, "Well, I know the menu, I know everything." And she was like, "Well, what about these tequilas? La Perla is specialized in Mexican spirits. So even at the time, it's been around since 1988 in Paris. And we had something like 70 plus tequilas and mezcals, which even to this day is still quite a lot for any Mexican joint, basically." And she was like, "What can you tell me about any of them?" And I realized that, I maybe knew 2, 3 of them, and that's the one I sold. And once in a while, I would just decide to upsell one, taste it, give my tasting notes to the customers, and try to sell that one. And from then, I tried almost every single tequila. Every day, I would, at the end of the shift, I would take 20 minutes.
So that was total wake-up call.
Yeah, I realized there was still so much to learn, basically.
Uh-huh.
And that was also very, very interesting for me because unlike most bartenders, the first spirit I got into and the first spirit I got really knowledgeable about was tequila. And it's not something that happens a lot. It can be often gin because gin is the cocktail spirit. And it can be rum because it's sweeter. And for me, it was tequila. And
was it because you worked there, or you just?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, what
were you drinking? Before your family, did they drink anything?
Wine,
just wine.
A lot of wine.
You're French.
Always wine.
All right.
But then and like in pubs, I was never a beer fan. So in pubs, I would drink whiskey coke and just shots, really. Anything a bit sweet. And
so tequila was really your first.
And it was the first thing I started sipping really neat, basically, and like anything else, because you'd shot whiskey or rum in bars and you wouldn't really like the taste. It was to get drunk, and then you'd sip on a tasteless beer to wash it down, basically. And it was the first time I actually took a glass and not shoot it, basically, of neat spirit. And and I realized I really liked it and I really wanted to know more about that. And at the time, the second venue of the Experimental Cocktail Club, called Curio Parlor, which sadly closed a while back, was a 10-15 minute walking distance. And I knew the guys, and we'd close at 1:30, I believe, and they would close at 4 on the weekends. So on Saturday and Fridays, I'd go there for a drink or two, and it was a completely different vibe. Like, I was making happy hour mojitos, and they were making Manhattans and Vieux Carrés and dry martini to another standard. And after another year at La Perla, I was kind of bitching about the fact that I was not making manager, I was not making any progress, and I was just there half drunk at Curio. And the manager there, Arthur, looked at me and he was like, "Well, why don't you quit bitching and just give me your CV then?" And it's the first time I realized that maybe I maybe had something to give, and there was other ways to learn. So I gave my CV, and I was hired within like the next couple of months, and gave my notice, say thanks very much. And again, like 12 years later, I still go to La Perla. The managers that I had at the time are still there, and it still gives me great joy to go there. Every time I'm in Paris, I will try to stop at La Perla and have a margarita with them or something, and it's really nice. When I left, the owner Thomas Tess told me that he was happy that I was leaving, and I was going to try other things and spread my wings, but this will always be my home.
Well, that's very nice.
And I met him a couple of years later on Maiden Lane in London at La Perla. Just by mistake, he was there, and I was there just on the weekend. And the first thing he said to me was, "Welcome home," and I was very happy. I have nothing but love for that man.
So when you made the shift to
Curio Parlour,
experimental, ECC, whatever, was it what you had expected, or tell me about the process of transition and what you learned there.
Curio Parlour, compared to ECC, was a much smaller, much hidden place, so we wouldn't be too busy, which means that we could really focus on the quality. We were the only Nika bar outside of Japan, for instance, which meant that we had so much Japanese whiskey all over the place, limited editions, vintages that no one could get their hands on. And so we had basically, from the kids that would come for cheap drinks, I started serving people that would actually know what they were talking about, basically. And I started learning classics, like the London Calling, for instance. The first time I met London Calling was at Curio Parlour, or the French Pearl, or just a Vieux Carré, which became my favorite drink at the time. And it was just a more knowledgeable clientele, but still, you could still teach them stuff, or you could learn from them. At the time, I was always happy to listen to people tell me what they normally like, because I was the junior, so they would tell me, "Oh, normally Arthur makes me this," or "Oh, can I just wait for Arthur to be back so you make me a drink?" And on one side it was very frustrating, but on the other side it just showed me that it was actually a job. There were people better than me, and I just had to learn even more to be at their level. And I stayed a year with Arthur there, and I think that's the most I learned in such a little time. And when I basically got kind of good enough, he kind of ditched me,
pushed you out of the nest.
Yeah, because I think he loves forming people. I think he loves just molding a bit someone that doesn't have much experience to a good standard, and then he basically kind of pushed me to ECC, and again, a big change. Arthur and I would listen to rock music and a bit of like slow rap, making cocktails in the dark, and wearing waistcoat and being all professional and calm. And I moved to ECC, where everyone was wearing kind of like open shirts, and music was blasting 3 times, and there was 4 times more people. And when I arrived there, for instance, I thought that I was already pretty good, efficient, and I was pretty fast. And I arrived there, and on a Saturday you'd be 2 behind the bar and you'd be serving 80 people. I mean, we'd be making 600 cocktails on the night there, just 2 guys behind the bar, 1 person on the floor and 1 person barbacking. And the manager there, Mika, was just a beast of efficiency. He's, to this day, I believe he's still one of the top 3 best bartenders in France. And the guy would just make 20 drinks at the same time, clock anyone that would pass the door and say hi, say bye to anyone, say to people, "I'll be with you." He was making 4 things at the time without looking like he was breaking a sweat. And I realized that I wanted to be like that, which instantly I never managed to, because I'm way too stressed compared to him. He was a very calm person. I never was. I was always the stressed one in that bar, no matter who I worked with. The other one would be the calm one. I would be the one being very fast, making drinks, not really talking. And I learned a lot with him. Then he left, and I had another manager there, and I became assistant general manager. And we worked there for, 3 years together? Something like that.
And was this then when you thought, okay, this is going to be my career?
Absolutely. When I was at ECC, it was just joy. I didn't feel like going to work. I would do so many hours, and I was just happy about it. And everything was kind of fine, but
because Paris has an incredible, obviously with ECC and everything.
Well, at the time there wasn't much, basically, and so.
But it was growing and growing. Why did you decide to come this side of the channel?
there's this saying about this being the smartest man in the room. I believe that if you feel you're the smartest man in the room, you should leave the room and find another room, basically. And it was a time in my life where I started managing a bit, but I was offered more like desk managing stuff, like supervising and everything. And I told the guys, the bosses at ECC, that I could do that like a day, maybe 2 a week, but I still wanted to do shifts. It's still what I want to do. Even today here, like I try to make sure I have a few floor shifts, bar shifts. It's what I do. I'm a bartender at first, and also you can't tell people what to do if they can't see that you do it better than them. Basically, I think that's appalling. People that will tell you what to do when you've never seen them behind a bar ever, and so I thought, you know what, this is not going to work because they really want me behind a desk and I really want to work in a bar, and they had a place here. I mean, I came for a month in 2012 to do a month, I think, to work here because I was getting a bit bored over there, and they sent me here. We just swapped, so I just
because when ECC opened here, you mean?
Yeah, I gave my keys to one of the guys from here. He gave me his, and we just swapped for a month, and it was really fun. And again, learned completely different things with the managers there at the time. And
was there a difference in the crowd, like from the French to the English? Did they order different things, or? No,
they just ordered faster. I think.
Did they expect it faster, or?
No, they just drink faster. There's something a bit.
They drink more. Because they're drinking it faster.
Incidentally, I think French people drink a lot more, but we are used to drink and eating at the same time. Whereas I think the English crowd tends sometimes to just come out of work on an empty stomach, have quite a few, and then just go home, basically. Whereas French people would leave work, go home, maybe have a beer home, get changed, have a snack, and then by the time you start drinking, it's actually 10.
It's an early day,
dinner or something. So it's a very different way.
It's an early crowd in England.
Yeah, it's a different way of doing it. Like ECC in Paris will be packed until 4. Here, for instance, Milk Honey is open until 3. Past 1 a.m., it really dies down, basically. You still have people, and especially our members know that they can come that late, but it's really more of an earlier crowd, I'd say. But it was really fun, and then I still knew the guys from here, like the co-owner of ECC London, Xavier, and I don't know how I was chatting about that to who. To a friend called Nico de Soto, who helped in London and then in the New York side, and now is the proud owner of several bars across the world. And he told me that I should speak with Xavier because there was some place needed someone, and I had been to Happiness Figures before, but basically thanks to Nico and Xavier, I got in touch with Alistair Burgess, and I came for the weekend, and we chatted a bit, and he was like, yeah, cool. Like if Nico and Xavier vouch for you, and let's do that. And it didn't last. I think I was there for 4 or 5 months max. I think I was too eager to move, and I think he was relying too much on people he knew and trusted. And I think if we had talked a bit more together, we may have realized that we were probably not the best choice for one another, which is fine. Happiness for Guests is still a great bar, and they still have great bartenders there. I have nothing but respect and love for that place. So for the first time in my life, I didn't leave a job because I had to. I left a job because I had to, not because I wanted to go elsewhere. So it was a bit weird for me.
Were you set on staying in London?
I didn't know what I came for Happiness Forgets, and suddenly there was no more Happiness Forgets for me. So I was wondering, and basically I realized that an old friend of mine from the ECC days was helping opening a place, and that place happened to be the old Player site, which was owned by the same guys at Milk and Honey, and they were selling it to the co-owner of the Sherry Butt, which is, but I think we'll come to that later, probably my favorite bar outside of London. And so I just called them. They were old friends, like the owner and that guy that was going to be the general manager or co-owner or whatever. And I called Billy and said, hey, do you have a job for me? And he was like, well, I have no management position because that's already filled, but if you want a bartender job. And I was like, I need to bounce back, so let's do that. So I helped open that place called Basement 8, Cocktails and Desserts. which was really fun.
That was one of the first things I ever wrote about.
Basement State?
Yep.
It
was.
I love this place.
Then it was
beautiful.
cocktails and desserts.
It still is, but I mean, it's been there for what now, 4 or 5 years?
Yeah.
Billy has kind of opened it more. The crowd that comes during the week and the weekend is completely different. So I think no matter where you are, you have to adapt a bit. So there's a bit more. There's also some savory snacks as well. Desserts are still like the main stuff, but if you come early in the night, better to have like a baked camembert than a chocolate tart. It's not what you want before dinner. So there's a few more options. The cocktails are slightly more complicated, I think. Like, we were so happy to work with the kitchen. I think I've made some of the most creative drinks ever there because, again, I learned something new. Every time the chef was basically using something or discarding it, and it's not about, for me, it's not about zero waste or whatever. It's about, what is this? Why does it smell like this? Why does it taste like this? Could I put that in a cocktail? And it was really fun. The problem is, obviously, it was an opening, so we didn't know how it was going to be. So we're always a bit understaffed because, well, everything has a cost. So I was there in the morning to do all the preps. Then I would do all the orders. Then I would do all the deliveries. Then I would do the shift. Then I would do the cleaning because I believe they still do. Just clean everything after yourself. And I think if you clean your own station in your bar, why not just do the floor as well, basically? Mm-hmm. So it was very long hours, and after a year and a half, I told him, listen, I'm not leaving yet, but I need to find something else because I need to be part of like a bigger team, and I can't do everything by myself, which is ironic when I think about it today. But, and obviously at the time, Milk Canning was around the corner, and I knew a few of the guys, so I would come for a drink once in a while just after shift, sit in the Red Room, which is my favorite room in the world probably, and I was just happy there. And I knew the general manager at the time, and he told me, hey, we're going to hire soon. Like, do you want to come, basically? And I was like, hell yeah. Like, Milk Canning sounds like the exact next step to, again, continue to learn stuff. And so I joined here in December 2015, if I'm correct. The 7th of December 2015. And I've been here ever since. And
what were you doing when you first got here?
I was a bartender. I was just a bartender, and then the general manager left in September the next year.
Well, supposedly, and I have interviewed Mia and people who've worked here before, that it is just so tough. You have exams, and it is, going to school again.
Yeah. I think it's important. I think I was never much for hierarchy in a place. I mean, as long as I'm in charge, obviously. But I think everyone should be on the same stage. So here, basically, everyone should be a junior bartender, because there's nothing for me more frustrating as a barman or as a guest that asking a question to a floor staff and that they reply, "Let me check with the bartender." It's a waste of time. It's a waste of steps. So we try to make sure that everyone knows the same. And the only people that don't know the same just know more, basically. I mean, we have a library upstairs of, 200 books that they can all take. We do masterclasses and then tests on these masterclasses every month. So, every month has a theme, principle of distillation, gin, brandies, and so on. And then, whoever wins gets a bottle, a bonus, a night out with me, whatever.
So there's incentive to win.
Yeah, of course. It's not just about... You can't ask the best of people and then not deliver something in return. I mean, it is a give and take situation. And when you ask for so much, you need to be prepared to give something in return, basically. And I think it's based on healthy competition, Again, the fact that no one is really, apart from me, higher than anyone else. But I mean, if I'm at the bar making a cocktail, I expect the guys on the floor, the guy barbecing, anyone to just tell me, fix that wash line. Are you proud of that garnish? And I'll fix it. Because working in a bar is not about yourself. It's about the persons you serve. And the only person that are actually focused on homemade ingredients, homemade tincture, ice programs, water programs, whatever, are the bartenders. Like, the person sitting at a table will have time for you for bits and bobs of information, but at the end of the day, they want usually their drink to look nice and to taste nice. And the rest doesn't really matter. So that's what we focus on. We focus on making sure that all the drinks are made a certain way, that everyone makes them the same way. The ethos at Milk and Honey is that if you drink a drink here, it should be replicable anywhere else. So we don't do any homemade ingredients. We only use fresh fruits. We do have an ice program, but that's because we believe in the Red Room or Members Lounge that if you carve ice to a certain size and a certain weight, depending on what you're going to put in there, you can, and it's very obnoxious to say, but you can control more the temperature drop and the dilution. You can only do that so much, but that's what we're about. That's why the garnishes are always super simple. The glasses are, again, very simple looking, but we use them because they're perfect for us they'll stack in the fridge without breaking and so on. And that's for us what's the most important, that the drink arrive at the table cold and that it stays cold as much as we can and that it tastes nice, basically. And
you have, I guess, I always call it the burden of history, but it's not so much a burden, but the idea that, Sasha is looking down and watching, or, you have this one of the most famous people in the world in this world, linked to this bar, and you want to do him proud.
Yeah, for me, at the end of the day, and obviously there's absolutely nothing but respect for Sasha, but I don't care about the bartenders. I want the person that knows nothing about a cocktail to tell us, I've had such a great night. The cocktails were amazing, the service was great. I want people that don't know what a cocktail is to tell us that. Anyone that comes here that's a bartender likes that place and respects it, and that's basically already a given, just because we're Milk and Honey. Even if you haven't come, you have high expectations as a bartender because you've heard about it. I want normal people. I want less cocktail educated people to come here and have a great time. That's the one I want to focus on. And I mean, it's our 18th birthday this year, so I believe that me and every person that has worked here before has done that, has achieved that, I hope. Otherwise we probably wouldn't be here anymore. But it's about the guests that you have, whoever they are, wherever they come from. You just want to make sure they have the best drink and the best service. And if they know about drinks, good. That's less job for you in a way. But it's always amazing to, still in this day and age, to show someone that there's something else than a mojito or a daiquiri or a caipirinha, and that if they like these things, we have something similar, but maybe with something a bit finer that they can try, or just different. And at the end of the day, if someone wants a mojito or a Long Island iced tea here, I'll make them. If I have the ingredients, if I know the recipe, I'll make it, because at the end of the day, I'm not the one drinking the drinks. I'm just making them, so it's about the person drinking. And if they just want a glass of house red, well, we just make sure to stock a good house red. And that's what it's all about. It's making the best drink possible, but also be happy to just serve people whatever they may want.
Sounds good to me. So if you couldn't drink at Milk and Honey here in London, do you have a favorite bar?
Yes, and it's it sounds like I'm cheating, but my favorite bar in London, without a doubt, and a second of hesitation, is Satan's Whiskers. And Satan's Whiskers is in Bethnal Green, which is literally a walking distance from my home, which makes me very happy, but is incidentally kind of Milk and Honey's younger, cool little sister. It was opened by people that worked here, that people that understand the importance of service and drinks. So if you ask them about any recipes of any drinks they make, the drinks, I'd say 95% would be the exact same recipe as here. Not much has evolved regarding that, and that's why I know the drinks will always be impeccable. The second thing is, again, service and knowledge. Just like here, if you go there and ask for drinks, not only will they probably know a bit more than other places, but because it's about service, they won't feel, and that's something that, again, has to do with pride, they won't feel bad about saying, I don't know that drink. Can you tell me the recipe, or do you want me to look it up? And I think that's very important. You can't know everything all the time. and I never feel as comfortable as being there on a stool and having a drink at that bar. It's just like here, but east, with a very nice hip hop playlist.
And walking distance from your home.
Which is a given bonus, yeah.
Even though this is your home city, if you were to go back to Paris, where would you go to drink?
So, as I've mentioned a bit earlier, there's a few places that I always go back to when I'm in Paris. So just to give a bit of love, one of my friend Joseph, who I believe is one of the other top 3 best bartenders in France, owns a place called Mabel, which is, to call him, a rum den. So it's got 2 of my favorite things. The first thing is a grilled cheese shop when you come in. So you have beautiful cheese toasties to start with, made by his partner.
Yeah.
And then he makes drinks, and there's a lot of places that would think that, rum has to be kind of tiki and fun, and tiki are 2 different things, I think, and you don't have to be laid back to make amazing rum drinks. And he's got an absolute banging selection of rums from all over the place, and most of his drinks are made with rum and are just absolutely amazing. That would be my little number 2, let's say. The number 1 would be Sherry Butt, funny enough, which was opened again by an old friend that used to work at a Prescription, which is one of the other ECC venues. So I've worked with him some 10 years ago or so, and they opened that place, and it's been there for 7 years now, and it's slightly Japanesey. It's very, it's about the wood, it's about the rocks all over the place. It's beautiful. There's a blackboard behind the bar with the 12 drinks that they do, and it's that kind of place where they always try to bring you something a bit different, which is what I love. Like, every time I go there will be something I don't know. Like the last time they used Bissap, which I've never heard about. No. It's a Western African type of hibiscus. And they're always looking for new stuff to eat and drink, and thinking, can I put that in a cocktail? The last time there was a drink with Calvados and a maple and shiitake syrup. Why not? Because actually maple, like anything that's a bit trickly, has a sweetness but also a hint of savoriness, and adding a mushroom to it is quite wonderful, actually. And that's what they do. They love cutting ice. They're experts at making little diamonds. Everything is just cute and precise and beautiful, and the drinks are just fantastic. And it opened when, again, there was not much stuff happening in Paris, and today, with all the bars that there is, and there are a lot, it's still my favorite place to go back to, because I know that the drinks will still be amazing.
We stopped right there so Pierre could make me another cocktail. Then I asked him his top tips for the home bartender.
I think at home you should focus even more so than in a bar on the taste rather than the looks. So you could talk about a lot of things, but I think the first thing is, if you want to make anything from old fashions to daiquiris, make your own simple syrup. It's very easy. You just take the same volume of white castor sugar and the same volume of water. You can just stir that directly, or you can just use a pan to just make it simmer a bit. It will dissolve a lot faster. That way you can control the amount of sugar you put in. I was never a big fan of sugar cubes or just white castor sugar, because there will always be a bit that's undissolved, so you don't know exactly how much you're putting. So just doing that syrup, you do half a liter, you leave that in your fridge, you can keep it for quite a while. That would be the first thing. The second thing, it would be just to always squeeze your juices to go, to just keep them fresh. And that would be the two first things. The last one would be obviously temperature control. I'm not really geeky when I'm home, but one of the things I really, really enjoy is ice. It doesn't have to look nice, but what I usually do is I grab like a little mold, like a cake mold, just fill it with water. So it will be white and won't be transparent. It won't look as nice as what I could do with a lot more time. But just having that, and then you can just sew bigger shards to just enjoy an old fashioned, or even just a gin and tonic. You'll have just the bigger the pieces of ice cube you have, and the slower they will melt. So your drink will stay colder longer, basically. That's for me. That's all I really care about. Like, I don't even do simple syrup at home. I just do ice to enjoy a gin tonic once in a while.
Great, thanks.
Now that we've wet your whistle by drinking a few, I'm sure you can guess what our cocktail of the week is. As Pierre noted, the London Calling was originally created by bartender Chris Jepson as a simple twist on a gin sour. This modern classic cocktail is the only one to appear on every version of their cocktail menu since. Add all of the following ingredients to a shaker: 2 dashes of orange bitters, 10 mLs of Fino sherry, 15 mLs of lemon juice, 15 mLs of simple syrup, and 50 mLs of gin. Add ice, then shake, shake, shake. Strain into a coupe glass. Then express the grapefruit twist before popping it into the cocktail. You can find this recipe, more gin recipes, and all the cocktails of the week at alushlifemanual.com, where you'll also find all the ingredients in our shop. As I mentioned, Milk and Honey is one of the 4 stops on my Lush Life Cocktail Tour of Soho. You'll have to find all the rest of the stops while on the tour itself. It is a load of fun, and I hope you can join me on your next visit to London. You can buy your tickets at lushlifecocktailtours.com. If you live for Lush Life, would you consider supporting us by buying us a coffee? Just go to buymeacoffee.com/lushlife, and you can donate once or monthly to make sure we are still here every Tuesday. Theme music for Lush Life is by Steven Shapiro and used with permission. And Lush Life is and always will be forever produced by Evo Terra and Simpler Media Productions. Which leaves me to say the wise words of Oscar Wilde: all things in moderation, including moderation, and always drink responsibly. Okay, the second part was mine. Next time on Lush Life, we head back in time to the 1920s with the bright young things at Claridge's, one of the most beautiful hotels in the world. Until that time, bottoms up.